Hello YouTube world, Mac Daddy 1911A1, Uncle Fester and Lurch here with the Shade Tree Survivalists. Part 5?
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is part 5 of Who Are the Shade Tree Survivalists. Question, Uncle Fester.
Okay, shoot it to me.
Why did you start drawing and writing?
Oh man.
See, that's a good one. That one there's been banging around in my head. I just now got around to thinking about it.
That's a good one. You know, honestly, I think one of the earliest things that I can remember was Tom and Jerry. And I can remember watching the Peanuts cartoons with Charlie Brown and all of them. I still draw them to this day.
Yeah.
And I think that was where it really, and there used to be an old anime show that came on CBS called Battle of the Planets.
Yeah.
I think you remember that one.
Yeah.
I was always fascinated with art. I think when I was really young, the first thing that I started drawing was cars. And I still am. I mean, I can't turn a wrench. I could barely change out a battery and change the oil in a car, but other than that, that's about as far as my mechanical expertise goes with the cars. But I've always had a love affair with old cars and classic cars and hot rods and things of that nature. And that's what I started off drawing. And I can remember a guy named Mark, I want to say his name was Mark Hutto. He could draw cars, and I think in the beginning when we first got started on the bus, he could draw a little bit better than what I could. And that really pissed me off. So it pushed me to start drawing. And I can remember I almost failed 4th grade because I would get into doing something and it would be like I didn't want to answer about what the capital of Portugal was, and I would just kind of take the books, put them up, get out my notebook. And my mother was always on me about wasting paper. She called my art wasting paper. So to get around that, what I would do is when I did my schoolwork, I would write on one side of the paper in the notebooks, and I would go all the way through, and as it would go, when I would get ready to draw something, I would draw it on the back of the old assignments in the notebook that I didn't have to have anymore, and there wasn't nothing that she could say.
Yeah. You know, we started doing that because you were doing that.
I remember that. I remember me and Matt playing I think we was playing. What was it? We was doing some kind of card game, and me and Matt was betting something. And Matt had a huge box of paper.
Aunt Pauline gave it to us.
Yeah, his aunt was a teacher that had all of these test things on one side of it, and I was like, man, that's the perfect drawing paper. There's no lines on it. There's no nothing. It's blank paper on the back. And we sat down to play, and I managed to win that box of paper, and I took half of it, and Matt kept the other half of it. I gave Matt half the paper, and I took the box of the paper, and I can't tell you how many drawings I did.
I still got tons of them that are drawn on the back side of those pieces of paper.
I can remember 4th grade was about the time that I really got started drawing, and then it was. Hang on a second, guys. But anyway, I can remember, man, we used to. You want to know one of the things, and it still influences a lot of the way we approach things. I think when we were growing up, the big thing I can remember was G.I. Joe, and they had all of the cards. What was that? What they call it? Dossier cards. Dossier cards.
Still got some of those too.
On the back of the action figures that they had, and I can remember us sitting down. That was probably one of the first real characters that stable character that or a military-like character that I came up with. I came up with it off of the Cobra Hiss driver.
Yeah.
That was Dragonfly. That was the first one that I come up for, was the character named Dragonfly. And I want to say that the second character that I came up with, because we would always make up characters for ourselves, and that's what when we would go out and go play, that was the character that we was when we would try to get up all the stuff to look like the character that we created. Cosplay, I think, is what they call it now.
Yeah.
But I remember the second one was off of the Cobra Dreadnoughts Buzzer.
Yeah.
That was the one that I modeled. The second guy that was Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger, yes sir.
So I can remember trying to grow the hair out long and the beard and everything else to do that. That was, man, that's like
and then you had the helicopter. Fire
Dragon.
Fire
that was
Dragon.
off of Airwolf.
Airwolf, yes sir.
That was a
You can watch Airwolf still to this day off Netflix. They've got it on Netflix. I've got it saved in
Not
my
Airwolf Light, because they've got the Airwolf Light where Dominic's a young kid and the String Full of Hawks.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, they did a remake of that one.
I didn't know that.
It was awful. It really was.
Yeah, the
it's the one with what's his name, J. Michael Vincent.
Yeah, J. Michael Vincent and Ernest Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine.
Oh, excuse me, Saint. Slops.
Huh?
Slops on. Food.
Oh, slops on. Man, I ain't a Navy guy.
But I remember that was what, because that was, to me, Airwolf was like the coolest thing. Yours was your first. What was your first one? Bulldog.
Yep.
Bulldog was the first character he came up with, and then it was he never. I was always changing characters. I always had to.
It was Bulldog, and then later it was Recon.
Recon.
Yep. And those are only two I ever had.
Matrix.
Oh well, Matrix was Recon.
Well, Matrix
Zach Matrix was Recon.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, his code name was Recon.
So I knew that he only ever had two characters that he came up with him. I was always changing different ones. I think I went through a whole string of them through there.
You know, that's the reason it shouldn't surprise me. You went through the rifle phase and the pistol phase, and you hadn't settled down since the.
I get bored.
That's the thing. You stuck with a 9mm Beretta for years.
I love the 9. It wouldn't take a whole lot for me to go back to the 9. 9mm Beretta was my favorite one. The only thing about the 9mm Beretta that would be a hard thing for me to go back to right now is where the safety catch is at. Because that's one of the things that the Glocks have spoiled me and the XD has spoiled me is no external safeties. Really, that's just that one safety on the trigger. It's not kid friendly, but but I just. I draw to this day. Anybody that goes on my Facebook page knows that that's all I post. I don't post pictures of my kids, but my son, my 9-year-old son, is probably even at 9 years old is very quickly beginning to outstrip even my ability in art. He can take some of the simplest stick figures and just simple drawings and convey so much emotion in the faces and the way they position themselves. I don't even have that ability to sit down. I mean, I have technical abilities that he doesn't have, but when it comes down to just, he can see something in the way he memorizes visual stuff. Somebody's killing, the neighbors is killing their kids. Oh well.
All right, what about the stories? Tell us about the stories. I know that your older brother and older sister, my first ex-wife. Anywho,
all in the family.
They were pretty much moved out of the house time you got up to
puberty,
right?
Yep, I was basically I kind of got to a point, by the time I hit puberty, I was the only child. And I was just always had a story. I mean, it's, you would see something and it would just spark a story. And it was like, sometimes they were stupid stories. I remember one of the things, I think one of the things in our society, because of mass media, and it's one of the things I guess that I love about YouTube so much, is that I think amongst the tribe there was always that one fellow that was the storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
It was his job to remember the details of, this battle and who won this battle and stuff like that, but at the same time it was his job to memorize stories that taught the tribe about morals and about, if you do this, this happens, and if you do that, this happens. And I believe that probably in another time and a place, if it wasn't for mass media, I believe that's probably would have been what my job was. And it's one of the things that I love about YouTube is that it gives a lot of people that probably would have had that job within their tribe a chance to get on there and put a story out there. Because I remember even when we was growing up, I was always...
Well, see, that's the thing right here that's so screwed up about this situation. I'm the YouTube guy, and you once in a while get on YouTube. I suppose I can do interesting videos.
You do interesting videos,
and
as far as
then
I'm concerned.
you're always the storyteller, though, man. You could tell a story. I mean, you could draw one drawing, and you have an entire book's worth of storyline made up by the time you finish drawing.
Yeah, that's what.
What is happening in the picture? What happened before the picture? What happened after the picture?
And that was what there was. What I used to call the front porch round tables. What we used to all sit on the front porch, either
Your
my
front
porch,
porch.
on my front
It
porch.
was almost 99% of the time.
99% of the time we would be on our. We would all sit down and we would draw a picture. And Matt would be like, you know, here, and he would give you the technical details.
Technical details. I was
He
the
could tell
machine
you-
guy.
He could tell you how big it was. He could tell you what the cubic inches was on the inside, how big the motors was, how they worked, what kind of weaponry it had, and I would draw a picture, and it's like Max said, I could tell you the events that led up to that picture, and I could tell you the events that led after that picture. And most of the time, Matt would sit down and give the specs of what he was talking about, and then I would sit down and pull mine out, and I just sat down there and tell the story about it. And it's, you know, we spent hours like that.
And it was an interesting story. That's the thing. That's the reason I don't understand how the YouTube thing got so screwed up. Because I like to talk, but I've never been a storyteller. I can't tell a joke to save my life. I can't carry a tune.
You see,
in a
that was
bucket with a
you
lid
see
on it.
the humor thing was always something that's pushed within our family. My brother was always telling a joke. He was always trying to be funny about something, and that was my dad. When I finally did get around my dad when I was about 16 and started living with him, I found out that was the same thing. My dad was always trying to pull a prank on somebody or tell a joke about something or be funny about something. And when my brother brought up his 3 sons, they had that same kind of sense of humor about it. And we would get together and I would pass jokes. There was jokes that my brother told me when I was 9 that I would tell again, and he wouldn't remember remember the joke. And it was like, man, you're the one that told me the joke, you know. And I think different things stick in different people's minds.
Yeah.
And one of the things that always stuck in my mind was like humor. I always liked making people laugh, even down there where I work at now. People, you know.
You know what you need to make videos?
What's that?
An audience.
Probably.
You need an audience. You know, that's one. I was watching a documentary the other night on the early pioneers of television, Lucille Ball and so forth. They could not perform without an audience. They could not do what they did without an audience.
You got to have a reaction to what
Yeah.
you're saying, because I
Yeah.
mean, you know, when you're just sitting in front of a stale, cold camera trying to, it might be funny as all get out to you, but it's like everybody's like, "What's this guy talking about?" You know, you can get that reaction of. I think Stephen King wrote one time. He says Stephen King isn't so much a writer in my mind as much as he was a storyteller.
Yeah.
He would always tell us. He always had a good story.
Yeah.
His writing left a lot to be desired sometimes, but it was the story. And you know, drawing somebody into your world and making them see what you see, that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
For me, it was a lot easier speaking a story, telling a story verbally, than what it was trying to put it down in writing. And you know, Mac reads is unfortunately he's on one of the few people on the planet that can read my handwriting, and he's
Used to. Now your handwriting is wonderful.
well.
All right, this is how it went. Used to look like you tied a pencil on your chicken's leg, and then you started poking him with a cattle prod, and that's his writing. And now, and he decided one day he was going to learn how to handle his weapon systems with his left side as good as he could his right side. And the first thing he did to teach himself how to do that was to start writing with his left hand.
Yep.
And he started writing these 30-page letters to me. Now let me tell you something. Somebody just learning how to write with their weak hand leaves a lot to be desired. But now his handwriting is clearer than mine. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you can't read it. Literally, it's terrible. You get 3 or 4 words in a 20-word sentence, and you were lucky. And then you maybe be able to piece it together. Now he can write it, and he'll write it with his left hand, and it's big and bold and smooth, and it's all.
I write better with my left hand than I do with my right hand, because I think sometimes one of the biggest problems that I had as a writer even beforehand was that my brain was going faster than what my hand could keep up with.
You know, I tried the recording thing. To record the story as I tell it, can't do it.
I couldn't do that either. I never could. If I had somebody to sit down and tell the story to, I think that would have been different.
You know what I wish you'd do?
What's that?
I wish you'd dig up the script or the the manuscript for Johnny. What the little boy's name?
Johnny Bittman.
Yeah, Johnny Bittman, and what was his made-up name? Luke, not Luke.
Spacewalker.
Johnny Spacewalker? No, not Johnny.
No. What was that one?
Dreamwalker?
I don't remember. Something like that.
You wrote it, or was it
Johnny
something you wrote?
Something I
Dreamwalker,
wrote.
I think. You ought to do that. You ought to get on the camera and do that. Because I still, now ladies and gentlemen, he recorded on a 90-minute cassette tape for me the entire, I think it was 3 or 4
It was
parts.
5. I think it was like 4 stories.
4 stories. He recorded that to me. When I was an over-the-road truck driver, I'd stick it in my tape player in my truck when I still had a tape player, and I would listen to it over and over and over. And then when I bought my new CD player, I took one of them little Walkmans.
Yeah.
Okay, I took the Walkman with me, and I took the adapter cord like you'd use, where you plug it in where the headset would plug in. You plug it into the radio, and I could listen to it on my brand spanking new Sony radio through the wonderful speakers in the Mac. And I just let it keep playing. And bought rechargeable batteries that I could charge up the truck, because the Walkman would kill heck out of a battery.
And that was probably one of the. I probably got an unfinished file, probably about that deep. But Johnny Bittman was the 4 short stories that I actually,
They were great. They were great. I wish you'd have finished it, because you got up to the point where the Miss Doberman
Yeah.
was going to give him his first sexual experience.
Oh, Jesus.
Sock it to him, and he ran, and then the story ended. I'm like, so, I'm like, wait a minute now. Of course, it turned out she was a snake thing or something like that.
Johnny Bittman was a very young fellow that was kind of losing his mind at the same time. And didn't know what was real and what wasn't real. So.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great story, and you should do a video on that, because that would be a great story for the viewers to watch. And it enthralled me. It enthralled me, man. I mean, I still got it. I've thought about just putting it and letting the audio run, but I won't, blank screen really isn't interesting. But watching somebody read it and the expression, you throw the expression in there and shoot. Yeah.
I don't know. We might do that one day. I ain't gonna make no promises.
It might be an interesting video. I think it would be, because I would darn sure watch it. But
It's like I said.
The food is ready on the table.
Yep.
So
Fat man's hungry.
We're gonna end part whatever this is. Thank you very much.
That's
for
the
watching.
dinner bell, guys.
Yep. Dinner has been, the bell's been rung. Let's go eat it. Did I say eat?